welcome back for the beginning of race 2. We're currently in the holding area where we see Jake Bailey in P1 after a controversial race yesterday. We've seen Josh Jackson end in P4. So Andy, we'll hand it over to you to run through the rest of the grid.
Yes, thank you, Lindsay. It was a controversial race yesterday, lots of talking points. They start this one the way in which they finish that race. So Bailey from Dunn, from Collins and Jackson the top 4, then Simon Fleet and Simon Orange and Matt Pickford and Jeremy Crook next in line. And then it is Liz Walton at the back of the grid, as she was yesterday. The green flag flies, and we're about ready to get underway after what was a sensational race yesterday. A bit too much contact maybe for a few people's likings, but it was very entertaining, there's no doubt about that. The red lights go on, they go out now, and who makes the start at the front of the grid? Keep an eye on Josh Jackson, the white and black car from the outside of row number 2. We're on board with him now, looking forward at Tom Collins, who slots through into third. It's wheel to wheel for the race leading towards turn number 1, and around the outside line, Nick Dunn trying to get the inside line for Charlie's, which could just work. On board with Jackson, he's got a grandstand view of this. Simon Fleet to our left-hand side will go right round the outside of us and actually gets himself ahead of the driver who's been doing all of the winning this year so far. So Bailey leads the way, Dunn second, Collins third, Fleet fourth, Jackson fifth, and Simon Orange down to 6th position. And then everyone else sliding through. Jeremy Crook, that looks like, is in 7th, ahead of Matt Pickford in 8th. Dropping up now onto the brakes in towards Park Corner, and the race leader Jake Bailey just runs a little bit wide there, bit of a twitch as he turned in on cold tyres, and hangs on to the race lead, but for how much longer? Because we saw that Nick Dunn and Tom Collins were every bit as quick as Jake in yesterday's race, and I don't expect anything will change in this one. It looks like Simon Fleet is up for this as well, doesn't it, in 4th place, pulling away actually from Josh Jackson at the moment. He's got his hands full of Simon Orange through Mansfield, and then back out towards the mountain section, as we saw in yesterday's race. For the first few laps, the whole field staying fairly close together. Ooh, Nick Dunn on the inside. He's thought about this a few times in yesterday's race. He's trying to do it on Jake Bailey. There's a bit of contact, isn't there? Yes, Bailey sideways, gathers it together, but that nearly went horribly wrong. Dunn up the inside now towards the Hall Bend, which is where he made a sensational pass yesterday on Tom Collins on the last lap, and Bailey's on the grass. Oh, Jay Bailey on the grass, he slides in front of the whole pack. Dunn spins in front of everyone. Oh, just about avoided by Josh Jackson. That could have gone horribly wrong, and Nick Dunn has not had a good time of it through the Hall Bends. He had it off there early on in race 1 trying to overtake, and then he did make a good move on the last lap on Collins to take 2nd place. This time around, though, it did not work, and Tom Collins has come out of it all with the race lead. Bailey comes back at him up the inside, though, down towards turn number 1. Side by side, Bailey on the inside line. Collins will not give him up without a fight, though. Oh, very close to the grass there as they went out of the first corner at Coppice, and it will be Bailey that goes back ahead. Well, sensational racing once more from the MX-5 Super Series. Bailey with 2 wheels on the grass coming out of Charlie's. That will mean that he could be a sitting duck in the slipstream up towards Park Corner. He moves over to the middle of the road to defend, but Collins thinks he sees a gap up the inside. No, not quite. Hard on the brakes now. This is brilliant stuff, though, isn't it? And it was a shame that had to end in tears there for Nick Dunn, because it would have been interesting to see, and he made that move for the lead stick, just what he could have done about it, whether he could have pulled away, because he's had promising pace, not necessarily been able to deliver the results that arguably he should have been able to. So Bailey still leads. Bailey now leads, I should say, from Collins 2nd and Fleet in 3rd. I've no idea what that did to the order behind, because Josh Jackson, of course, was the first man on the scene as Nick Dunn was spinning. I think they've all continued, but where, I don't know. Jackson, though, for the 2nd race in succession with an early issue, not of his making, it must be said, on either occasion, arguably, and he's now got to fight back because of it. Tom Collins this time, the man who wipes out the floppy markers at the entrance to the Hall Bends. They never last long, do they? You almost wonder why they bother putting them back between races. They are supposed to be there to deter the drivers from exceeding the track limits, but one does feel that a plastic floppy marker will be less of a deterrent than, say, a wall or a tyre stack or even just a big curb. But I can sort of understand why, for safety reasons, they don't want to do that, but it always makes me laugh when those marker posts go flying within a lap or 2 of the start of the race. Right, there is Josh Jackson, back behind Simon Orange again, who he had to overtake once in race 1, was then defending from in the early stages of race 2, and now he is trying to find a way back through again now as we approach the 1/4 race distance in this 2nd race of the weekend for the BRSCC Mazda MX-5 Super Series. He sits in the slipstream coming out of Charlie's, up the part straight. Likewise, Tom Collins is in the slipstream with Jake Bailey, trying to find a way back through into the race lead if at all possible. Then it is Jeremy Crook and Matt Pickford, and then this battle, which will be decided for the time being in the favour of Josh Jackson, but Josh, we know, should have the pace to be winning races, and it just hasn't really gone his way this weekend at Cadwell Park. So back into the gooseneck, and we'll get our first real look here at flat out on board through the gooseneck. It's a real leap of faith there, but there are several corners a bit like that here at Cadwell Park, where you have to commit to a corner. You can't really see all that well. Back into the bottom of the mountain once again. And still Jackson not racing away from Simon Orange, it must be said. I think that's Nick Dunn in behind as well, isn't it, that's trying to regain ground after that first lap spin. Yes, it is, into the series of bends where he's had all of the action this weekend. There was a red and white striped flag out in the background. Now, many refer to that as the slippery surface flag. It's actually, well, this isn't the official name for it, but there's something on track that shouldn't be flag, which doesn't necessarily just mean liquid. It can mean anything. It can mean bodywork, it can mean grass or dirt. In that case, it meant that floppy marker that had been sent flying a little while ago. Now, what's happened here? Because we've had a change of lead and indeed second place. Jake Bailey was leading last time we saw him. He's now third. So what's happened there? Not only has Tom Collins gone through into the race lead, but Simon Fleet has found a way through into second position as well. So Bailey will now try and come back at Simon on the inside into Park, but despite the little lock on the brakes, he wasn't quite late enough on the brakes to make that move stick. So Collins into second, and Bailey down to third. That's, sorry, Fleet, excuse me, second. Collins down to third. Interesting stuff. Back through Mansfield and along the bottom straight, which again isn't actually straight, it's got those couple of kinks in it, and into the braking zone of the mountain. Fleet defending the line on the inside. That means this man now leads the race, Tom Collins, and they've pushed back out that bodywork on the front left corner that got squashed in after his contact with Josh Jackson yesterday. It's almost unthinkable, isn't it, that Josh Jackson wouldn't be in the mix for a race victory in either of the races really this weekend. He led early on in race one, but since then it's all gone wrong, and Josh is not going to be particularly pleased with the way that his trip to the northeast of the country has gone so far. There's always the third race though to try and fight back in. As always, that race providing plenty of drama. It's not a reverse grid, but it's still third race, end of the weekend, a few scores to settle maybe. There's certainly been a few scores to settle, I think, after this one, as Jake Bailey tries to come back now at Simon Fleet, coming out of Charlie's. Gets himself alongside, running up the hill, but no, pulls out of the slipstream and hits that. It's almost like hitting a brick wall of air, isn't it? But now, back up the inside goes Bailey, and if he's late enough on the brakes, he should make it stick. The car looks really squirrely under brakes, though, doesn't it? It doesn't look particularly happy under braking, and so Fleet, around the outside line, is able to sail straight back through. So here is Matt Pickford coming through Charlie's, sorry, through Chris Curve, beg your pardon. Josh Jackson not far behind. Great on-board footage this from Matt Pickford's car as he goes through the roller coaster section through the gooseneck. Jackson thinking about going up the inside line there into Mansfield. He certainly carries a bit more speed into the corner. That yellowy Martini-esque livery car. Matt Pickford actually slows a bit coming out of Mansfield. Maybe a missed gear or something there, because straight through went Josh Jackson. So not sure what happened for Pickford, but he did just appear to lose forward momentum then quite significantly coming out of the gooseneck. So next target is going to be Jeremy Crook for Josh. Jeremy on for his best finish of the season so far, if he can stay where he is. Easier said than done, of course, especially when you've got the 5-time race winner Josh Jackson cruising up behind you. Josh won all 3 races last time out at Snetterton, the first 2 races at Brands Hatch as well. Back down then into the first corner they go, and Nick Dunn, you can see in the background there, going up the inside of Matt Pickford into the first corner. That's such a brave place to try and overtake. Really is one of the few proper old school racetracks left in the country at Cadwell Park, where if you do make a mistake, you're probably going to be going very quickly and you're probably going to come into contact with a tyre wall fairly soon. There's very little runoff area indeed, which just adds to the challenge of the place because you can't afford to make a mistake. The hill goes Nick Dunn, has a little look at the inside of Matt Pickford, in fact a big look at the inside of Matt Pickford, and goes through. So Nick Dunn picks up another place. That was fairly easily done as he went up to the top of the hill. On board with Josh Jackson now then, chasing down Crook still. Caught Crook fairly quickly. He's not really been able to make a move stick just yet, so still the same order for the time being with Crook in front. See, it's all fairly close together actually in the midfield with a few really quick drivers in there. Jackson and Dunn, both of course proven front runners from the first race. But Meyer down in the midfield now. There is the Clapham North car of Nick Dunn, one of a few cars running that livery these days. George Grant's company, which is one of the main series sponsors of the MX-5 Super Cup and the Super Series. And it really does look good, that car, doesn't it? And always beautifully turned out. It's going fairly quickly this weekend as well. Not necessarily had the results to show for it just yet, although second in yesterday's race wasn't bad. That's a stunning last lap move on Tom Collins, who I remind you still leads this race after a mystery drama somewhere for erstwhile leader Jake Bailey, who I believe is still stuck in combat with Simon Fleet for second place. Jackson, closes right in on Jeremy Cook there through Charlie, who runs a bit wide through the middle portion. And there was almost a gap up the inside, but Jackson, having already been on the receiving end of some contact at that corner this weekend, decided it was more sensible just to back out of it. That loses him momentum and so allows Nick Dunn to get alongside into Park Corner. I think that Nick is going to make that one stick, and that's quite significant because, of course, Nick has been every bit as quick as Josh this weekend. And so by finding a way past him, he is now leading the charge up the field, basically, of those two quick drivers. Very equally quick, but it's now Dunn in front on board with Matt Pickford. Simon Orange, that is, behind us, heading through the gooseneck, and Simon with a much more aggressive line over the curbs. Sees a gap up the inside in towards Mansfield. He's late on the brakes. He's up the inside, gets to the apex first. They're side by side out of the corner now as well, though, but Simon Orange will go through and manages to pick up another position. So really nice move that. You can see that one being set up as he just carried that bit more speed through the gooseneck, and that transferred into an opportunity up the inside into Mansfield. Back up the road though, this three-way fight still going on here between Crook, Dunn and Jackson. Jackson hasn't yet been able to find a way past Jeremy Crook. Can Nick Dunn do it? Nick's already proven on a few occasions he's not afraid to try and overtake into corners where most would not try and would not take the risk. He's perfectly happy to throw him down the inside, outside, so he takes his fancy really. There's Matt Pickford. One of the most distinctive liveries on the car, on the track in the series. Back with Josh Jackson there chasing down Nick Dunn. Here's the fight for second, but it is still raging on. Simon Fleet still not letting Jake Bailey go. And Jake, with the slipstream up the Park Straight, might just be able to have a go on the brakes at the top of the hill. Yes, he is. He goes to the inside line. And this time the car looks still looks very unstable. Look, late in the braking zone, the car gets sideways. And does Simon Fleet fend him off again? Yes, he does. Brilliant stuff from Simon Fleet then. He's not going to roll over and let this one go. Simon has not yet had a podium finish this year. In fact, he's had two top fives, I believe. Fifth is his best finish, I think, so he's already on for his best finish. If he can make that second place, he'd be really happy with that. Regardless of other people's issues, Simon still had to drive the race well, and he's kept Jake Bailey at bay remarkably well. Back over the mountain. Bailey tries the Dunn line up the inside, no way through. Cars rock on the suspension. You can really see the cars working hard through that part of the circuit to change direction, deal with the rise and fall and the slightly slippery surface that we've still got, a bit like we had yesterday really. A bit of overnight rain has just dampened the track, and well, offline anyway, online it's still dry. If you go offline to try and make an overtake, particularly into the trees through the Hall Bends, you are highly likely to lose grip and find yourself skating onto the grass, which, as we saw earlier on when Nick Dunn went off, is very wet and very slippery. So, out through Charlie's all fleet with a bit of a sideways moment this time, and that could cost him second place. Jake Bailey with much more speed out of the corner, and this time there's no way that Simon Fleet was going to get over to defend because he'd slid too wide, he'd left the door wide open. Bailey was in there like a shot, but now he's got to complete the manoeuvre, and we've seen that Fleet has been a little more comfortable under braking than Jake Bailey. He runs a bit deep himself though this time onto the grass does Simon Fleet, and so Bailey gets his way finally back into second place, but he's lost some 7 or 8 seconds to the race leader as a result. So Tom Collins still leads this race, but by an increased margin now as a result of the 2 cars behind battling. There is no sign of Collins up the road, so he's really pulled away. I assure you he is still there though as the race leader. Bailey into second, Fleet into third. What's going on in that fight for 4th place? Has Josh Jackson been able to make his way into the 4th position yet? Taking for liberties there with the curbs is Josh Jackson. Now those floppy markers have gone, there's no reason at all not to cut the corner. Well, still 4th place is Jeremy Crook. Look, Josh Jackson cannot find a way through. It's not for the want of trying, but of course he's also under pressure from Simon Orange behind. So where has Nick Dunn gone? Nick Dunn, we are hearing, has pulled into retirement, so that's a shame. Nick Dunn with some sort of an issue, and he's no longer part of this fight, so that is a shame because he was of course ahead of Josh Jackson, was the man most likely maybe to break out of this pack and finish 4th, but that has not been the case. He's a bit late, I don't think. He must have pulled off out on circuit somewhere. So Jackson now has Simon Orange breathing down his neck, and he's still being bottled in behind the very impressive Jeremy Crook. Long-time MX-5 Super Cup racers, both he and Simon Orange. Josh Jackson a little less experienced, but still very, very rapid indeed. Looking for a gap up the inside towards Park. There's no gap, so Crook defends it nicely, goes in on the tight line into Park corner though. That's always risky because the road really flattens out on the exit of that corner. It's very easy when you go in on the tight inside defensive line to just skate a bit wide onto the grass, but he avoided that thankfully. Back through the gooseneck, down the hill. Ooh, Orange a bit sideways in the background. The ambient temperature not particularly high here this morning, so the tyres just struggling a little bit for outright temperature. In a way that these are the perfect conditions for really quick lap times, because the cooler the air temperature is, the more efficient the engine runs, and so you do get a bit more horsepower. The tyres actually grip the circuit a little bit better when it's temperatures in sort of the low to mid teens rather than when it's into the 20s and 30s. So Josh Jackson, like all the drivers out there, running on the grooved tyres, which seem to be lasting him fairly well. Tom Collins has been in imperious form in this race. We didn't see exactly how he got the race lead, but he did get it, and ever since then has been able to pull a pretty good lead over the cars behind and left them to fight in his wake. He's now only half a lap or so, just over half a lap or so, away from his first victory of the season. We're going to have 2 different winners from the first 2 races. Now, we've not yet had a weekend with 3 different winners. Could this be the weekend? Because we've had a Jake Bailey win, a Tom Collins win, but Nick Dunn, Josh Jackson, of course, they're both potential race winners in race 3 later on today, so it's all still to play for. And there are other drivers out there nowadays in this series capable of winning races, which is exactly what we wanted to see. Thinking back to Brands Hatch, back at the start of the season, it was, and even at Snetterton to be honest, it was very often a big gap between Josh Jackson and Jake Bailey at the front of the field. Well, this time around they're not even at the front of the field. Yes, they've had their various dramas, but nonetheless, Tom Collins has been on pace all weekend. Here is Josh Jackson, still struggling to find a way past Jeremy Crook as he goes through the mountain for the final time. Gets a much better exit though, looks to the outside line as they go towards the Hall Bends. But the race leader is Tom Collins, and he is coming towards the start-finish line to win the second race of the weekend here at Cadwell Park, excuse me. Second place will go the way of Jake Bailey, and third place will go the way of Simon Fleet. This is the fight for 4th, and Jeremy Crook is going to hang on to 4th position ahead of Josh Jackson 5th. And there is confirmation of the result. 8.2 seconds in the end was the winning margin for Collins over Bailey and Fleet. Then it's Crook in 4th, Josh Jackson down in 5th, a disappointing weekend for him. 6th place for Simon Orange, 7th for Matt Pickford, and 8th for Liz Walton.
Well, we started third on the grid, and managed to get up onto first place by the end of Hull Bend. So I don't know what happened there, but it worked in our favour. And then after that, I think Josh got back in front of me again, but he binned it off at Gooseneck, and I managed to get in front and just pull the lead, and then it was just like a test day really from then.
We've got to say a massive congratulations on that one. You seem to work from pure determination in that race.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it wasn't easy. I thought I had it at the start, and then I threw it away, and then I got it back, and then I totally threw it away through Gooseneck. I was like wrong line, wrong brakes, wrong gear, wrong everything. That's when Simon and Tom went through. And then, yeah, Simon kept me true for a few more laps than I'd hoped, and I didn't think I was going to have to do him, but a little mistake from him allowed me past.